Welcome back to another episode of The Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. Listen, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an immediate family member, an enemy, and any variant in between. I appreciate it all. Now, normally, you don't see me do a show on a Monday or a Tuesday because of my commitments to the Undefeated podcast. However, because they are now delivering content throughout the week, I might become a bit more flexible with the Monday, Tuesday content. And in this case, just due to what I witnessed, when will you see this? You're probably going to see this in the morning, right? So realistically, what I witnessed on the Conor Benn stuff last night, yeah, we got to talk about that. But that's not all I got to talk about. So yeah, I think I'll probably keep it to those two topics because there's quite a bit to go into. But before I get to Conor, there's one, maybe two other things I want to address quickly. So without further ado, let's get into it. So in boxing, as of recent, we've had a couple of instances where we've had a situation where the dad should probably not be speaking on behalf of the team or the son. I mean, we had it with Andy Ruiz Jr., his father basically speaking that Andy was, left PBC, is now a free agent looking for further opportunities, only for Andy to then come out a couple days later and basically say, no, he's left TGB, Tom Brown Promotions, but he is still with PBC and will be moving forward with Al Heyman as his advisor. We've had other instances, you've had Danny Garcia's pops before, can't remember his name. You also had Teofimo Lopez Sr. say things in contradiction to Teofimo Lopez Jr. With probably the only one who's maybe as aligned to their son as the father is probably Bill Haney and Devin Haney and maybe George Kambosos and his pops as well. That being said, yeah, we had another such misstep again happening on the side of the PBC with Bozy Ennis, who's recently just come out and admitted that BLK Prime stepped to both Bozy and Boots about doing a fight with Terence Crawford for him to get a shot at the title. And Bozy basically has said, I won't speak to you or do anything unless Showtime are involved in it because we're loyal to Showtime. So on several occasions, both Bozy and Boots have said that, Terence Crawford doesn't want to see them. He doesn't want to, why don't you come talk to our people? Why don't you, try and send the contract this way? You kind of, essentially, you go around about the houses and you'll go anywhere else or you'll speak about other people, but you don't mention our names. Well, here is literally a case of Bozy Ennis telling on himself and his son that, no, Terence's people reached out to you about doing a event with him to be his opponent, but you've turned it down because of quote unquote loyalty to Showtime. The same platform that only allowed you to box one time last year and took a good 9 months out of your career. That's who you're pledging loyalty to. Now, if loyalty is a big thing for you in that sense, cool, no problem. But then, if that is the case, and Showtime have to be involved, why haven't Showtime made an offer to Terence Crawford? If you really want that Terence Crawford work, quote unquote, why are you doing nothing but fighting in IBF eliminators? Why have you not petitioned the WBO, who at one time actually had you as number one in the rankings? Why haven't you petitioned that way? That's a much quicker, easier route to a title shot because Terence has no mandatories. At this point, you already see that the WBC are going to do what the WBC are going to do for Errol Spence Jr. The IBF hasn't called a mandatory for him in over almost 4 years now. The WBA, forget about it. Besides, but you're not going down that route. You're taking IBF eliminators to fight for a belt you can't even guarantee you're going to get a crack at. Like, you're doing currently an interim title shot. That's basically what you're now doing. But all of a sudden, again, you want to use Terence Crawford's name for, at this point, it's clout chasing. You're trying to get big off of his name. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Bozy Ennis. I think he's a fantastic fighter, but I don't think he's as good as people have made him out to be. I never have. I'm very much a person that the CV has to show everything. Don't get me wrong. He proved a lot better than I thought he was going to do against Castillo Clayton, because I like Castillo and I think he's a good operator, and Boots handled him rather significantly. But in Boots' last fight, he showed his deficiencies. Now again, part of that could be due to being out of the ring for as long as he was. Whose fault was that? Showtime. But they're the ones that have to be involved in your chance to get a title shot. To me, that's just a way of putting a roadblock in front of a fight you don't really want. Because if BLK Prime come to you, even if you've got, and the thing is, Bozy even said that they don't have anything on paper. They didn't sign, from what I can remember, they didn't actually sign a deal. Like, it's basically done off of, we've got a free fight agreement, but nothing's in contract. So what he really should have done was said, all right, I'm not really good at negotiating this thing. What are you going to offer us? Give me a price. Take that price to Showtime. BLK Prime have just offered Bozy Ennis this money to go and fight Crawford. Can you match it? Or can you talk to them so that we can get this fight on right now? But no, you got to talk to Showtime. That's the same as when Errol Spence is telling Terence Crawford, now, well, you got to talk to Al. Or, Jamal Charlo, like, Lions Only Promotions. But when someone makes an offer, you got to talk to Al. Why have you got to talk to Al when it's your promotional company? And I get Boots isn't a part of the PBC, so I'm not making this about PBC, but what I'm saying is you can't be here talking about, Terence Crawford don't want to see you, then when you get made an offer, probably for a lot more money than what you've ever been paid before by Showtime, all of a sudden, Showtime have got to be involved for that to take place. That sounds like a very convenient way to duck a fight, in my opinion. And as much as I do like Boots, I gotta call that BS where BS lies, in it. And this is just another situation of a Pops not knowing when to keep his mouth shut. And I don't know how much of a reputational effect this is gonna have on Boots, but that whole boogeyman mantra that people was trying to put on him before, saying, the champions don't want to see him. No. Maybe there's one champion that don't want to see him. Maybe that Spence dude don't want to see him, but Crawford quite happily will. So, and if we're talking about boogeymen in divisions, I mean, it might have to be Mr. Terence Bud Crawford, aka Nightmare from Creed 3. But yeah, we're gonna leave that one there. If you haven't seen that interview, watch the interview. It's very, very telling. But I don't want to hear nothing more about Boogeyman or this guy beats Terence and blah blah blah, because when it came down to being able to make that fight happen, all of a sudden that pen was on the other side of the room. You couldn't be bothered to walk over to it and go pick it up. Same with Virgil Ortiz. We call it out as it is, because the same thing happened there. He turned it down twice too. And there's evidence of that from the WBO president, saying he was offered the fight twice and declined it on 2 occasions. So yeah, I think that narrative is now blown. Let's see what happens moving forward. Okay, so we got to talk about this Conor Benn Piers Morgan interview that took place, for me right now, is a couple hours ago. By the time you see this, it was probably about 12 hours. Okay, so I didn't write it down. I was on the live stream with Undefeated podcast at the time, so I haven't gone back to watch it to take particular notes. But 2 things were very, very clear to me during this interview. Number 1, if Conor is not innocent, he is the most delusional person in the world. Like, he's literally built himself up into a mind state and into a story that he's literally ingrained himself into. Like, he can't get out of this story. You know, sometimes some people they put themselves in a space so deep that they just can't get out of it. Some boxers do it, some method actors do it, where they just start acting out and there's no way to snap themselves out of that particular place they're in. That's the case right here. Because if he's guilty, he really doesn't believe he's guilty, and that's coming across quite evidently at this point in time. This interview didn't do anything to persuade me any more or less of whether or not he knowingly or unknowingly ingested anything. What it does tell me is he wants to fire bullets at several different groups of people, but he was being very careful not to say certain things, I guess, while there is still a legal case pending. The only people that he was quite happy to expunge on the legal ramifications that may be taking place either now or in the very near future is that of the BBBOC. And so he gave us a little bit of details that they hit him with 7 misconduct charges. Although one thing that I'm a bit unsure about is, he said that 2 of the misconduct charges, one of them was not telling Chris Eubank Jr. immediately about a failed test, and there was a second one which is escaping my head at the moment. And that's why he basically didn't renew his license. But I'm pretty sure in an interview 3 or 4 months back, Eddie Hearn said that he's upset with the board due to misconduct charges that have nothing to do with this case, and that's why he hasn't renewed his license. It's nothing to do with not wanting or being afraid to, you know, fight over here or be scrutinized under them. His license has expired and he chose not to renew it because they hit him with some misconduct charges unrelated to the case. That's what Eddie Hearn said. So then how have we now got to 7 misconduct cases, and 2 of which you give us on the program is about the case with the fight between you and Chris Eubank Jr. So right there, that's a situation of 2 people who haven't got their stories correct. The one thing I kind of do believe him about is the fact that he is not basing any of his quote unquote innocence or on a contamination of eggs or egg powder or anything of that nature, because he was quite adamant that if that was the case, that was given to him by the specialists of the WBC's legal team. You know, he could have taken a backdated 6-month ban, which means he'd be able to fight by April anyway. And all, you know, he was given multiple ways out. He said he could have unknowingly ingested something. We heard about the, you know, taking the wife's pregnancy pill by mistake and all these different things. I could have taken the easy way out, but I can't have that on my name and my reputation. So I hear that and I say, if you are guilty, actually no, to be fair, even if you're innocent, like, you're kind of doing way too much, which then tells me that you really do believe what you're saying, which makes me, I'm very much undecided. The problem I have is, yet again, just like obviously we found out from the statement the other day, and I know I said I wouldn't really talk too much more about this stuff, but I mean, this was too good not to necessarily try and speak about. But the statement the other day gave us some nuggets, basically saying you felt that there was issues with, you know, lab testing and whatnot, and a sample coming back 3 times clean, 4th time dirty. But then it was brought up that, hold on, so you had the one sample from the clean boxing program, and when you heard that it had an adverse finding, you didn't even flinch. Oh, okay. You had no reaction to it. It wasn't a big thing. Oh, yeah, no, that doesn't sound right. Or, like, to me, any time I would hear something like that, I would be taking it like, what? Excuse me? Are you sure? All right, no. Let's do, you know, where's the B sample? Open that now. Well, or I'll take another test right now. Let's clear this up. Not a, oh, that's a bit strange. Oh, well, I wasn't really thinking about it. No. That nonchalantness tells me that you almost, is at that point, it's almost like, no, it's too good for something to be in my system. Almost like if I was on a cycle, no, I've paid too much money for you to be able to find something. Yeah, no, that can't be right. But then you say, oh, it's like someone must have done this to me. Now, I get it in two ways. You could say someone must have done this to me, as in it was human error, or it was human intervention. But he never quite specified either or, because on one point he was very much thinking this could have, like this was it feels like it was a malicious thing. But then on another point afterwards, oh, well, it could have been an accident, or it could have been, an unintentional, contamination. So even within the story that he's given, while it's clear that he's trying very hard to either not incriminate certain people, or he's trying not to divulge information he's been told he's not allowed to speak on, it's throwing up even more questions than there was before. And as much as he's like, oh, he even went on there and said, people think I'm guilty anyway. So then at that point, it's like, okay, so you understand that people think you're guilty, but yet you're still coming onto a show to talk about something that you keep then saying, I can't really talk about it too tough because there's things going on in the background, but I'm innocent. So why do you keep coming on to shows or onto social media or in the public eye saying things when you can't just let off the whole clip? And then the whole thing about, my pride is not going to allow me to, let the British Boxing Board of Control have this document before this process is done. That part I do understand. I know some people don't really get it, but ultimately with that, I can see that he already feels that they've got an agenda against him, because they said on the Monday of when the event was supposed to take place, they come to him and say, we're going to uphold all 7 charges that are against you. So he's like, all right, screw you, I'm not even renewing my license for you guys. Like, you man are some jokers. You tried to treat my dad the same way, now you're trying to treat me this way. And he did make mention of, there's been numerous people even recently that have had issues, but none of them have been treated the way he's been treated. None of them have been come after the way he's been come after by the board and by other people. It's like, it's a witch hunt. That I can kind of agree with. I've said it many times. Up until now, no one still doesn't speak to Robert Smith about Zolani Tete or other guys or other people. No one, speaks to them about these other situations that have happened. But Conor Benn's situation on TalkSport especially is spoken about damn near every single week on their show. And I know there's going to be even more, because I'm talking about it right now, so I can just imagine Simon Jordan is probably literally going to be studying word for word everything to dissect the next one, and just telling Spencer what he has to agree with and what he has to say, throwing him his script as well. I could imagine it, because even I said I'm not chatting about this until it's over, but I had to speak about this because this was a train wreck. And it's like, it doesn't make me think that he's any more guilty than I would have thought. It doesn't make me think he's any more innocent, because again, you're coming out proclaiming an innocence, and now he's almost trying to use public sympathy. Oh, it was like the hardest time of my life, I was taking it day by day and stuff. And all right, cool, I get it. I can imagine if you feel you're innocent, or even if you're guilty, but everyone's against you, and you was like the public sweetheart, you was the darling of the city, of the country, and now all of a sudden you're just vilified and oh, you're a cheat, you're a disgrace, and how could you, and your family name ain't shit, and blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, cool, but it's like now you want to play that angle when you still ain't giving us the necessary information. You're like, okay, 270 pages, our experts have said X, Y, and Z, but you still can't tell us exactly what they said, or you still can't tell us who's really getting sued. Are you going to be handing legal letters out to the laboratories, the WADA and VADA labs? Because remember, at that point he said, oh, well, I mean, it may have just been a contamination. So before someone's out to get you and like legally we're looking at it, now it's, oh, it may be a contamination. Is that because you don't want to go up against them? Is that a body that's too much for you to go against, like, you know, in a battle, you know, money wise? Is that going to bankrupt you if you try and do that one? But the British Board of Control is quite easy to go after, because you know you got more bread than them, or their liability. It's a lot easier for you to entangle them in legals than it is in VADA or WADA Laboratories. Like, what is the actual situation? Like, nothing was really cleared. And also bringing like Nigel Benn into it as well, I felt that was a bit difficult, because I know for a fact, I can tell the way Nigel, like the way he connects his sentences, a lot of them are kind of disjointed. A part of that is being a little bit punchy. You can tell when someone's punchy, they kind of go around the houses before they kind of get to the main point. And there was times, especially with the delay, the sound delay from, you know, the studios to Australia, the fact that obviously it's a pre-recorded interview, it's not live, so they'll edit it how they choose to edit it. There's many times where you can hear Nigel is saying something and then he's about to start speaking again, and you can see the sharp cut and it goes back to the studio stuff, and then you just see Nigel almost on the camera looking a bit forlorn, like, huh? What happened there, kind of thing. It just, the whole thing just didn't necessarily look, it looked like I came on here to try and clear my name to the masses, hoping that they'll forgive me. But then, you know, even though Piers Morgan didn't push that hard, but he was able to say enough things that tripped you up. So it's like, how much of a conviction could you have if you were able to be tripped up, like, by someone that you agreed to go on their show? So you must have known what you was gonna say. It's very hard to understand how we got here and how this ended up the way it was. Like, literally, it's really I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch it again, not tonight, but I will watch it again and process. I've got to do some video study for, you know, for some of the fights that we're going to be talking about on the breakdown that you're going to see later on. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get my take off, because I need to get some of this out. Again, a lot of it just didn't make sense to me in sense of why you would do this. This was not the time. Without all the evidence there laid out, obviously I can understand you can't just leak the document because there's legal proceedings going on and you can get sued, and it might, if you've got another case going on in the background, it can damage all of that. But you've said yourself, I've hired the best lawyers. These lawyers have told you to keep your mouth shut, but you keep going against them to divulge something that you then can't prove afterwards. So you're hoping that people just believe your word because you're passionate enough to say, oh, I am the innocent, I am innocent, I wouldn't do this if I wasn't, and da. It's like, we've heard that before. Not to the extent you're going, but we have. So again, I'm still waiting for all the evidence. I've not given an idea either way. All I'm saying is this doesn't help me say innocent or guilty any more than anything else. It just tells me that you literally need to just kind of shut up and go away until everything is allowed to come out. You can bust case, like literally bust your gun in front of everyone, saying boom, that's it. Now what are you lot got to say? And until that day, like, yeah, train, get ready for your next fight, whoever it's gonna be. You guys know who I think it's gonna be, and let's keep it moving. But look, I think I've probably spoken a bit too much on that than what I was planning, so apologies if the video is longer than, you know, I normally like to keep them, but hey, it happens sometimes. Thank you very much for watching, and for right now, it's the Hardcore Casual out.